A perspective on entrepreneurship. This is an article written by Howard Stevenson, and I'm trying to summarize the key takeaways. This is a great article, the first article that I read, which gives a good introduction on entrepreneurship. So, what is entrepreneurship? So, you want to start a company? You really want to first read this article. In summary, entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to controlled resources currently. So basically, if you have a drive and if you can detect an opportunity, meaning you are an expert and you don't know how you're going to be able to do it because you don't have all the people, you don't have a complete plan, meaning you don't have all of those resources to do the work, but you still pursue the opportunity. When you have that characteristic towards that pursuit of opportunity without the resources today, you don't know how, but you're going to figure it out. If you are that kind of person, then entrepreneurship could be for you. And one other key takeaway was an entrepreneur is like a promoter. Like they can see the opportunity, they are an expert, they can connect the dots, they can actually focus on the end vision, they can see the patterns. Versus a manager is a trustee. You give them work, they'll do the best they can with the resources that they have, but a promoter figures it all out, right? So these are the key summary points, and there are a lot of contexts that the article also shares as to why entrepreneurship is gaining traction. So there are 600,000 new businesses as of 2006, which has doubled over the last 10 years as of 2006. So meaning there is an increase in corporations of companies, high growth in venture capital, especially after the 30 years of post-war expansion. And there is, within large companies, this concept of entrepreneurship, meaning I am innovative or I am able to pursue opportunity internally at larger companies. So is there like, do you have to be in a small company to be an entrepreneur versus large company? That's this distinction. And there is global technology competition. The technology has made it even field for competition. Products have become short in life cycle. So that's why this topic of entrepreneurship is more important. But is there a pattern in all of this? Should you be working at a small company to be an entrepreneur versus large? Is there a pattern for technology companies to be an entrepreneur? Or are there like some key personal and psychological characteristics of an entrepreneur? Is there like a need for achievement, need for founding a company, being perceived as someone who has control, risk-taking appetite, innovation? Are there some of these patterns? So the short answer is no. None of these individually can identify if you're an entrepreneur. But there are 6 dimensions, behavioral dimensions, that will tell you if you operate from this lens of a promoter or an entrepreneur versus a trustee or a manager, right? So what are those 6 factors? Number 1, strategic orientation. Do you drive yourself based primarily on what the opportunity is that you see? First, you should be able to see it. You should be an expert in this area if you want to be an entrepreneur. Second, you should be able to see the opportunity. You should be able to see into the future some gaps that you see forming. And second, if you are focused more on how are you going to do it, the details about the whole plan being ready, then you're resource control. You're not focused on the opportunity, but you're focused on the resource. So if you're focused on the opportunity, you are a promoter. If you're focused on the resources, you're a trustee. So that's a really good distinction. Where is your strategic orientation? On the opportunity or the organization or the people? You need both, but an entrepreneur focuses on the opportunity because that's a huge one with lots of unknowns that they need to figure out. The second one is the commitment to opportunity. Once you can see an opportunity, do you like commit yourself until you get to the result, until you actually see that come through, or do you like slowly take steps? If you take revolutionary steps, like radical steps that are needed to be open about partnerships, creating new ideas, solving problems very differently, then you are a revolutionary, meaning you are more of a promoter. Versus evolutionary, consensus based, less risk taking, making sure everyone's okay, checking all the boxes, then you're evolutionary, right? So that's more like a trustee. So commitment needs to be revolutionary for an entrepreneur. Resource commitment is also multi-stage and minimal. They're very frugal. A promoter is very frugal. They'll slowly add resources, and in versus like a trustee or a manager would be like, I need all of these people day one. I'm gonna go with a complete plan. I'm gonna make it happen, and they'll reduce their personal risk. The entrepreneur will actually even put in their own money. So a manager versus trustee, manager or a trustee or a promoter versus entrepreneur, right? So control over resources. Entrepreneur or a promoter would rent. They don't want to have large fixed cost. They'll be very flexible in terms of employing the best talent for a very short period of time and get done with it. They'll have surge needs. They'll pay people well. But a manager or a trustee would be like, hey, I need to know exactly who are my people. I don't need to negotiate with them. They should just do the work, and I own them, right? So that is control over resources. Very different mindset, very different behavior. The fifth one is management structure. There's informal, merit-based, flat hierarchy versus like a pure packing hierarchy for a trustee or a manager, with reward-based systems that promote you based on hierarchy. Same goes for compensation. Like entrepreneur just focus on the value creation, like who gets it's a team based, like everyone gets the credit, and they are more like commission based, versus here it's like minimize the insecurity, make sure you get the promotion, promo based, hierarchy based compensation, right? And so these 6 dimensions helps us really think, like what is our behavioral inclination. If you are actually leaning more on the left hand side ones, then you're more like a promoter or an entrepreneur. But if you're more on the right hand side, then you're more like a really good trustee. Make no mistake, both of these people can do really well, and both of these people have jobs. To make any company successful, you need a strong entrepreneur, but you also need a strong trustee or a manager. So both of them are good, and you can become really good at both. But you have to find out where your behavioral dimension, where are you leaning towards, right? Knowing yourself is very important. And when I read this article for the first time, a lot of things came to me which was very new, like the clarity of thinking. It's very clear to me where I fall right now after reading this article, in terms of like where am I at. So the takeaway, 2 key takeaways: entrepreneurship is an approach to management. It's an approach, it's a behavior approach. It offers rapid response to changes that are beyond the organization's control. Or entrepreneurship is the approach that is so innovative that you build new things that you contribute to those changes in the environment that you see. So you're ahead of the changes. Either you're able to respond to changes, or you are above changes, meaning you are like contributing to those disruptions. So entrepreneurship gives you that approach to management where you can, if you're an entrepreneur, you will be rapid at your responses, you will be innovative in your problem solving. And entrepreneurship can be applied to both startups and larger companies. But with larger companies, when you have more and more of those resources, as the firm grows, entrepreneurship becomes difficult because you get so many of these constituents aligned to get small amount of work done. But the fundamental is the same in terms of the behavior, the 6 behaviors that we looked at. So you can apply this behavior both in a startup and in a large company. The impact will be much larger in a startup because you are actually solving problems that you never thought of before, in ways that you never thought of before. In larger companies, there'll be a set of rules, best practices. You got to follow certain things. It takes certain time. You have to negotiate with people that you work with. You have to make sure everyone's aligned, make sure that all of the key parties play along. Versus here, you're focused on the opportunity. You're laser focused. You're lean. You are value driven, you are solving problems, you're building partnerships, you are putting your own money, which is very different than when you're a manager trying to be a trustee, right? So the promoter versus a trustee, figuring out which of those six dimensions are heavier for your own behavior, for your own inclination, is an important step. So before you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, think about the behavior side. So hopefully this article gives us a really good introduction as to what are some of these six behaviors that we looked at for entrepreneurs, for them to thrive, right? And this was the best line that I would end with. It's a pursuit. Entrepreneurship is a pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. That's one line summary, very powerful. If you forget that line, then just have this line, which is, are you a promoter or are you a trustee? Right? That is a characteristic that will help to differentiate between the two. Thanks.